So the Philadelphia 76ers lost an awful game last week to the Detroit Pistons. When you're trying to acquire the 1 seed out east, it's just a game that you can't lose to a Detroit team. Cade has been balling, but overall, the Detroit Pistons are looking to tank. Right? They want Cade to be great, but they want to lose basketball games in hopes of getting a nice young talent to put around Cade going forward. The Philadelphia 76ers should not be losing to the Detroit Pistons at this point in the season, as Philly pretty much is at full strength right now, right? So after the game, Doc Rivers, the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, was asked about some of the other guys, the bench, the role players on that Philadelphia squad and their struggles in this game. And he said something interesting. He said those guys didn't struggle. They didn't get a lot of shots in their defense. I think during that stretch, it was more James Harden than them. Yeah, it's just a tough night. That's from the desk of Philadelphia's coach, Doc Rivers. And if I'm reading him correctly, pretty much he's saying, don't blame these other guys. The reason why we lost, he didn't say that, but I'm reading it, is James Harden was taking all the shots. They didn't even get shots. You can't blame them if James Harden was on the ball, which we know the bearded one historically does. He dribbles the air out of a basketball. Never forget, Kobe and T-Mac, they did that joint interview 4 years ago with ESPN's Rachel Nichols, I believe. And they both said, bro, you're never winning with James Harden in the way that he plays basketball. Now, Harden has come off the ball a little bit more when he was in Brooklyn and a little bit more than Philadelphia. But overall, still on the ball too much. I have been somebody who believes James should go back to the 2. See, I think Harden has all of the talents to be a point guard. He has the package to be a point guard in this league. I don't think he's got the mind night in, night out. I don't think he's got the mental to be the point guard of your team. I don't. I really don't believe that. And when you got somebody who's running your offense, you need them engaged every possession down. No possessions off with your point guard. Maybe that even means a lesser talent be your number 1. Take Harden off the ball and put him in spots to win. I would love to see James Harden get back to the days early in his career in Oklahoma City when he wasn't on the ball and you can actually find him in the corner for 3. James Harden pretty much doesn't take set jump shots anymore. That's why I don't even look too far in his shooting percentage, because most of his shots are off the dribble late in the shot clock when nothing else is going for his team offensively. Step back 3-pointers. I don't even look at his percentage and get too offended by it. He's going to be an awful shooter every year because of the quality of shots that he's taken or lack thereof. So when I hear Doc Rivers call out James Harden, I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh. If you ever heard me say uh-oh, just know I see something about the brew. Okay, let's paint the scenario. The 76ers held on to Ben Simmons longer than they would have liked. They put their big fella Joel Embiid at risk for another injury, having to play him pretty much every night to start the season, even though Embiid 7-2 with a history of injuries, because they couldn't afford to sit him because they didn't have their number 2 in Ben Simmons. They did all that, seemingly it looks like, because they knew they could get their hands on James Harden somewhere down the line. They acquire the bearded one at the deadline. They bring him in. They trade away Ben and a guy that they really liked in that organization in Steph Curry, the son-in-law of Doc. So I want you to hold on to that two parts of that Doc son-in-law, Steph Curry piece. You get rid of the son-in-law, so he's already out of the organization, which makes it easier to find Doc. And also you get rid of a really great shooter. That Curry name holds a lot of weight in the league. Curry's a very consistent piece. He's a great shooter. Maybe not Steph, but really good is Steph. Consistent, valuable piece to a puzzle that you let go to acquire James Harden. Okay, add this to the list. James is really tight with Daryl Morey. That was his man's in Houston. Daryl is the VP in Philadelphia nowadays. They're like this. They're attached to the hip. When Daryl Morey left Houston, he wrote an open letter to James Harden, professing his love to the bearded one. That really happened, by the way. They're private jet buddies. We get it. Okay. If you look at the ownership group in Philadelphia, Michael Rubin is a guy that's really close. I don't know if he's super close to James Harden. One can imagine that he is, because he's really close to friends of James Harden And Meek Mill, that's a close friend of Harden's. Lil Baby, that's a close friend of Harden's. And I can name a couple other artists as well that Michael Rubin is really tight with. Okay, the point I'm trying to make is you might want to watch this spot where Doc just made a comment on James Harden's game. This is 2022. This is not 1998, 2004, 2009. Doc Rivers is not Phil Jackson. Coaches are not able to be critical of players publicly anymore. We are not in that era anymore. You will get fired over that. Philly let Doc get it off one time with Ben Simmons just because Simmons wouldn't shoot the basketball. But I don't think they would lose James Harden over Doc. They would fire Doc Rivers before they let James Harden go. And by the way, Harden read up for one more year in that deal when he was willing to join Philadelphia at the deadline. One of the things for Philly was, give us an extra year. So he's not a free agent this summer, but he will be one the following year. And if you think Harden won't have input on that roster and that coaching staff going forward, as close as he is to general managers and owners of the team, come on now. If Doc and Harden go south, and if the Philadelphia 76ers get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs this year, I'm not saying it will happen, but if it does, I think the Sixers would be wanting to fire Doc, especially if he doesn't have the cosign from Harden. We might revisit this comment from Doc on James play publicly once again. They're not letting another star go in favor of their head coach. They did it one with Ben. Ben was a special case. They're not letting another coach. I told y'all from the beginning, I don't believe James Harden and Joel Embiid is winning you a championship together. I told y'all from the beginning, I think Embiid is going to get worn out by James Harden, his lack of ability in big games, his him holding the basketball. The fact that if Embiid really want to be real, it probably cost himself a regular season MVP, one that he doesn't have in his closet just yet, by signing off on the James Harden trade, which I do believe Embiid signed off on. I don't know, y'all. You might want to revisit this video, maybe not a couple months down the line, but a couple years down the line. I don't think this is going to end well with Doc Rivers, and this might be a footnote in the bigger realm of things if James Harden and Doc Rivers don't work out together in Philadelphia.